Thank you so much for joining us for our Clean Mobility 411 today. My name is Jane McCurry, and I'm the Executive Director at Clean Fuels Michigan. Russ Bates is the founder and CEO at NXTGEN Clean Energy Solutions. We're really honored that they're a new member with Clean Fuels Michigan, and we're excited to learn a little bit more about the process to go from thinking about a charger to having an energized charger in the ground that's capable of charging vehicles.
Well, thanks to Clean Fuels Michigan for having us, and we're proud to be a member of this great organization. We're going to talk basically concept to completion. As of 2024, there's 4.5 million electric vehicles on U.S. roadways. Automakers, they're investing a lot of money into EV charging or into EVs, which means we need more EV charging. Why are these drivers deciding to go from gas powered to electric? There's a few reasons. One is the lower upfront cost and that improved affordability. And that's because the battery cost is going down. That's the main cost in electric vehicles. You don't have to go and gas up spending $50, $60, $80, $100, whatever you're spending on gas. You don't have that cost. You're going to plug in. Is there a cost associated with that? Yeah. It's significantly less. You don't have oil changes, right? You don't have to do a lot of these maintenance things that you do with your internal combustion engine. If you've ever driven an electric vehicle, you're going to see that it's got an incredible performance. It accelerates just amazingly. There's more selection out there. That means there's not enough plugs out there. There's some major gaps whenever you're looking at the market. So multifamily, so think apartment buildings, public locations, restaurants, retail spaces, and certainly workplaces. The public and the semi-public chargers, they really need to scale up. They aren't keeping pace, as we mentioned earlier. And that presents a great opportunity for business owners, developers, even the local government to do things to include these stations in their plans and get them deployed for additional revenue and economic growth. It is 120 volts. So the same as you plug in a lamp at your house or your iPhone to charge, pretty much same thing. What kind of charging rate are you going to get? 3 to 5 miles of range per hour. So level 2, that's a jump in voltage. You're basically doubling your voltage. So 240 volt, that's what you're going to have in most houses and commercial locations. So think of like you're plugging in your dryer or your range in your kitchen. Charging rate for this, that's a bit better, right? 12 to 40 miles of range per hour. That's pretty good. It's best for multifamily, commercial, workplace, really public access types of things. It's going to go up to 480 volt, but that's really for 50 kW. They can go all the way up to some seriously high voltages, up to 400 kW for depending on the station size. So the charging rate for this, what's a level 3 or DC fast charger going to do? 3 to 20 miles per minute. So significantly faster. And whenever you have these ranges, something to keep in mind is it's going to depend on the charger itself. And it's also going to depend on the vehicle. Some vehicles can charge a little bit better than others. These are really best for like public corridors, okay? Whenever you're thinking of maybe fleets where you have to charge pretty quickly. Highways, interstates, those types of locations. And these are really a higher cost for the station, and you may have to do something with regards to the utility requirements, right? You have to understand what your existing infrastructure electrically looks like. Do you have the power there that's needed? Because for each station that you put in, you're going to be using more electricity. You also want to look at the driver behavior and their charging habits. So is this going to be a residential location, like let's say an apartment complex? Is it going to be for employees? Is it going to be for the public? And then you want to select that charger based on what those criteria are. You also want to decide if you need software for the system. But if you want payment processing, if you want to track data, you're going to want that software. The traffic flow. You don't want it to be a problem for people pulling around trying to find these things and having that safe ingress egress. You also want to think about those drivers that have to back in to charge, like with a Tesla, as opposed to maybe they've got a Mustang Mach-E. And you want to position these things so they can be seen, so people can see where they're at, so they're able to get in there pretty easily. But you don't want to obstruct any pedestrian, certainly not vehicle paths. And then you also need scalability. What does that mean? That's kind of future proofing. So is it something where maybe you're putting stations in, maybe a dual plug pedestal, for example, but you may need to expand that. You got to understand what kind of power do you have there and what's that capacity. You need to calculate your load requirements. So what's that charger going to be pulling, and make sure that's factored in. You also really need to coordinate, if you do need upgrades, what are you going to have to do with that utility to get those electrical upgrades? But you can offset some of that demand charge problem with on-site solar, battery, some different things that maybe that makes sense, maybe it doesn't. Again, you need level 2, or do you need a DC fast charger? Well, maybe you need both. For level 2, it's pretty simple. It's a J1772 connector. Or you can use a Tesla connector. The Tesla can do level 2, and it can also do level 3. So level 3's got a few others here. CCS, the CHAdeMO, those are starting to go away. But really, everybody's going to go to Tesla. Something else to consider, the mounting options. Is this going to be a wall-mounted station? Is it going to be a pedestal? Will it mount on a pole? You got to look at all those types of things and decide what station is going to work for your situation. Most reputable vendors and your OEMs, they're going to have multi-year warranties on these stations. But again, that's something that you want to look at. First, do you really need software? If you're wanting to collect payments, or again, track usage, set pricing, maybe you want to control if that station is being able to be used or not, you're going to need software. So whenever we're talking about software, you're getting really into what is that user and that entire experience going to be. You want it to be very, very simple for that EV driver to come in and use that station and then get on the road. So there's a lot of ways to do that. Again, the mobile apps we mentioned, you can also go with RFID cards, QR codes. Tap to pay is something that we're seeing more of. There are also just the integrated credit card readers. So there's station management tools that are part of software. Again, you can monitor the status. You can even perform remote diagnostics. Also, data and reporting is something to think about. So if you have a station that is being used a lot at a certain time of the day, that's good to know. If certain days of the week it's being used more often than not, hey, that's good to know. You want to verify your layout, make sure that it's all going to fit to where you want it to. The parking spaces are going to be spaced accordingly. You've got your electrical routing planned and all the undergrounds and that type of things figured out. ADA compliance, get your permits and your approvals. So completing your civil work, any concrete or pavement removal, installing your conduit, pulling your cables, doing any panel upgrades, all of those types of things are done. But you want to make sure that the stations are properly mounted. You don't want them blowing over in a big storm, right? They've got to be secured properly. Cord management systems, incredibly important, okay? And then, of course, the safety bollards there. Next, you're going to have to do the inspections once you get all that work done. And then you get into the commissioning and the software setup. So you're energizing the system, you're putting the network tied in, configuring any pricing. So you'll have real-time alerts. A lot of the troubleshooting, again, is done automatically. There may be a problem that's fixed before you even know about it, and that's what you want. They happen pretty fast. Also, the firmware and software updates are important. These are automatically pushed out, right? Same as you may get to your computer or your iPhone. And then what if there is something, a repair needed, and you do need service? You don't want that offline. You don't want any downtime. You want to have that happen pretty quick. Project funding is always an important piece, probably the most important piece. Charging as a service, or CAS. So that's where you can get your stations and your software through a service agreement. So you're not purchasing the stations, you're paying a monthly fee. So you're saving the money on the stations and that software just being paid through a fee. And that can be a lot, especially when you're talking about DC fast charging stations. Those are 40, 50,000 for just a 50 kW, and you can get into, into the multi-$100,000 for a large kW station. Another option is third-party owner operators. So what's that? Well, there's actually companies out there that will fund, they will do the installation, operation, maintenance, everything. And the site host, whoever that property is, the station's going to be on, they can receive lease payments, or maybe they're getting a portion of the charging revenue. There's also grants and public funding. So that's a direct model ownership. So whoever is going to be that site host, they're paying for everything. Of course, that's a higher upfront cost, right? For the equipment and software and this and that. But they're going to get all the returns on it. The ROI, it's going to vary, but anywhere in the 2 to 5 year range. So first, strategic site selection. You want to think about the site. What's going to make sense? What's not, right? You want to match your hardware and your software to those site needs. For the installation, you want to follow that coordinated process, plan the work the plan. Of course, ensure the long-term reliability, having a quality operation and maintenance program in place. Then the funding. How are you going to pay for it? Well, you want to explore what makes sense. It could be a combination of a few things. There are options to look at there. And something else you can do is maybe partner with a trusted expert. This is a shameless plug for NXTGEN. Whenever you look at all the steps that are involved, it can be very, very overwhelming. So that's what NXTGEN's able to bring to the table. We go in and do all that work for you and make it very, very simple and to guide you in the right direction. So whether it's where to put the stations, what type of station, all the way into the funding, financing, operation, maintenance, everything, concept to completion, plus past that with operation and maintenance, we're really that easy button to make those things go the right way.